On your screen, you will see the requirements for earning a 3 and a 4 for organization on a TDA essay. Now let's look at the organization domain a little more closely and see what exactly the difference is between the requirements for a 3 or proficient and the requirements for a 4 or advanced. Focus on the key words that are highlighted or boldface. For a 3, we see the words functional and the word some. For advanced, we see meaningful, intentional, evident, and or subtle. So let's take a look at proficient, a closer look at a proficient. In order to score proficient for organization, your essay must have functional arrangement of the content, including an introduction, development, which will be your body paragraphs, and a conclusion. There should be some evidence of organization that supports the point or claim. So the last sentence of your introduction paragraph makes a claim. Throughout your essay, there should be some evidence of organization that proves or supports that claim. And finally, there should also be some evidence of transition to connect ideas. Now, the essay that we are doing on the Telltale Heart is a guided essay. So everyone should have a functional arrangement, at least a functional arrangement with an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And every body paragraph should support your point or claim because we looked at the evidence together and developed that. Now, how do you ensure that your organization can get a 4 and not just be proficient or functional? This is what you need to have. There needs to be meaningful arrangement of your content. So the introduction, your development, and conclusion must be meaningfully arranged. It's not just, well, I have my introduction and this is my body paragraph and it's talking about the literary devices, so I'm good to go. The way in which you organize your content and your evidence should have meaning. Are you organizing it in order of importance? Are you organizing in order of what is most frequently used or found in the literary work? Are you comparing and contrasting? Whichever way you arrange your content, it should be meaningful to the reader. And in order to make it meaningful, you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about where you place your evidence, how you place your ideas, the order in which you sequence them. And a lot of that is done through your use of transitions. How do you show the connection between your ideas in a paragraph? How do you show the connection between your paragraphs in your essay so that it sounds like one cohesive, even flowing piece? That is done through transitions. So let's take a closer look at transitions and what they do. Transitional devices, and these can be words or phrases, are like bridges between parts of your paper. They are cues that help the reader to interpret ideas a paper develops. The transitional devices are words or phrases that help carry a thought from one sentence to another, from one idea to another, or from one paragraph to another. And finally, transitional devices link sentences and paragraphs together smoothly so that there are no abrupt jumps or breaks between ideas. There are several types of transitional devices, and each category leads readers to make certain connections or assumptions. Some lead readers forward and imply the building of an idea or thought, while others make readers compare ideas or draw conclusions from the preceding thoughts. There's a handout in Google Classroom called Transitions Handouts. You'll find that under week 19, and it has a list of different transition categories and examples of those categories. So here is what the handout looks like. If you are writing and you want to add ideas in your paragraph, here are some transitions that you could use. Furthermore, besides, moreover, in addition to, if you are comparing and contrasting, here are some transition words that you might use between your sentences. If you are trying to prove a fact, you might use some of these transition words right here. If you are trying to show time or sequence of time, here are some transition words that you would use. So please check out that transition handout in Google Classroom so that you can use it to guide you as you ensure that your writing has smooth transitions and shows how your ideas connect to one another. Let's look at an example, and I'm going to read this paragraph to you. I've highlighted the transition words and phrases in green so that you can see that this student's paragraph on Edgar Allan Poe's use of metaphors in his writing is not haphazard. The student intentionally uses transitions to show how the ideas connect to one another. Pay attention to the green highlighted transition words. Poe uses metaphors in his writing to illustrate a suspenseful mood, enhancing the mysteriousness of the entire story. The metaphors create comparisons that stimulate the reader's senses. For example, the text states, "A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine." The narrator is referencing exactly how slowly he had moved the final night before killing the old man. The metaphor is used to stress his slow and precise actions. Throughout the story, he puts an emphasis on how calculated and slow his movements are, which creates a suspenseful feeling, knowing that the murder is about to occur, but not how or exactly when. Later on, notice the use of the transition is showing a progression of time. Later on, the narrator mentions the beating of the old man's heart. He says, "Meanwhile, the hellish tattoo of the heart increase." The addition of the metaphor supposedly about the old man's heart creates a stressed and anxious mood. The rapid beating of the heart often indicates anxiety and horror. Knowing that either the old man's or the narrator's heart sped up creates an overall anxious feeling for the reader. After the suspense and waiting are over, again, notice the use of the transition, showing the passage of time. After the suspense and waiting are over, the narrator includes another metaphor showing that he had success in ridding himself of the eye. For example, the text states, "Yes, he was stone dead." This quote uses both a metaphor and repetition of the word stone to prove that the horrid deed had been done. The metaphor compares the old man to stone, which allows the reader to visualize the old man's lifeless body, which creates a feeling of shock and terror. The repetition sets in the fact that there's no turning back. Up until this point in the story, again, note the use of the transition. Up until this point in the story, the wonder remained as to whether the man would actually kill someone, and the metaphor served as the awful confirmation. The literary devices illustrate the author's actions in a chilling and suspenseful way that are perfect examples of the mystery and horror genre. So again, you see how this paragraph just seems to flow so seamlessly as the reader examines the author's use of metaphors to create and build the suspenseful mood for the reader. And it flows seamlessly because of this student's intentional use of transitions. So as you go through your essays, you want to make sure that you are using transitions to show how the ideas in your essay connect to one another.